Good evening, everyone. My name is Natalia Rodriguez, and I'd like to warmly welcome all of you tonight to this very special event with singer-songwriter Luke Slott performing an Immortal Youth, a musical tribute to the Bob. Bienvenue à cette soirée très spéciale. Dustan Aziz Bessiar Hoshamadid. Bienvenidos a todos a esta noche muy especial. On behalf of Luke and all of the organizers, I want to thank the Glebe St. James Church for allowing us to use this beautiful space. Thank you as well to all of the volunteers who made this possible. And finally, a big thank you to the Ottawa Bahá'í Community for all of their support. In furtherance of reconciliation, I recognize the land that we are on. We are gathered tonight on the traditional unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. I recognize the long history of all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples in Ontario. We thank all Indigenous peoples who lived and live in these lands for sharing them with us in peace and in friendship. I say this in the spirit of reconciliation and as a reminder of the values of equity, diversity, and inclusion that we strive for in Canada, and that are reflected in the teachings of Baha'u'llah and the Bab, whose declaration we are commemorating tonight. A few housekeeping items. I would ask everybody to please turn your cell phones off or make sure they're on silent mode. I see some lovely children with us tonight. That's wonderful. Please ensure children are sitting quietly throughout the program. Washrooms are located outside of the sanctuary on the right-hand side. And finally, guests are welcome to take photos or videos of the performance if you would like, and you're also free to post them on social media. In terms of the agenda this evening, the evening will start with Luke's concert, which will last about 1 hour in length. We will then have some light refreshments, and we encourage everyone to stay, mingle, make new friends, and socialize. At 10:30, we will close the evening with prayers and devotions to commemorate the Baha'i Holy Day of the Declaration of the Bab, and everyone is welcome to stay until the very end of the evening. My husband Aram and I met Luke 14 years ago this month while on Baha'i pilgrimage in Haifa, Israel. We were in the same pilgrimage group, and we instantly felt a connection with him. We also first heard Luke sing during that pilgrimage in an evening program in which he sang the prayer, "Create in me a pure heart," a rendition that would form part of his first EP as a solo artist and would then go on to be his most streamed song on Spotify. I remember being taken aback by his beautiful and angelic voice, especially because up to that point we had no idea that he was a singer. Over the years, our friendship has grown, and he continues to be a very special person in our lives. It's for this reason that we are extremely delighted and honored to have Luke here with us in Ottawa for this very special occasion, the commemoration of the Declaration of the Bab. Tonight's concert is an additional concert that Luke has offered as part of his North American Our Story is One dedication tour, which is an international concert tour inspired by the 10 martyred Baha'i women of Shiraz 40 years ago. We are so very fortunate to have him with us. Thanks, Luke, for being with us tonight. Luke Slott is a singer-songwriter from Ireland. Born into a family of artists in Dublin, he took to music at an early age, regularly watching both his father, a trumpet player, and his mother, an actress, performing in Ireland's concert halls and theaters. In his teenage years, he began writing songs and was quickly signed by Sony Music, but later set out on his own as an independent artist. At the age of 21, Luke joined the Irish Bahá'í Community, and its message of the unity of humanity and the oneness of religion began to influence his music. As a solo artist, he has released several albums and has traveled extensively, giving concerts and workshops in over 20 countries, from Europe and North America to the Middle East and the Pacific Islands. He has performed for dignitaries and governments around the world, most recently the European Parliament. He is set to perform for the United Nations in New York later in his tour. Now, you will hear a lot about the Declaration of the Bab throughout the evening, but very briefly, in Shiraz, Persia, in 1844, the Bab, whose title means the gate, ignited a spiritual revolution when he brought to the world a message of unity, love, peace, and the oneness of humanity. Luke has created a magnificent and mystical program that brings us back to 1844, the time of the Bob's Declaration. This musical journey explores the life of the Bob, his impact and legacy, through stories and songs that Luke has written by blending the Bahá'í sacred writings with original lyrics. Now, since this concert is essentially one complete piece, and since a lot of the songs are prayers, Luke has asked that everyone please hold their applause until the very end of the program, which, as I said, is about 1 hour in length. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Please enjoy the program.
Well, thank you very much, Natalia, for this beautiful introduction. And I hope that you and Aram know how mutual my feelings of friendship for both of you truly are. And it's such a gift to come to Ottawa and spend this time with you and to meet new friends and see old friends. And I would, before anything, I would like to just express my thanks to the Glebe St. James Church and to the Bahá'í Community of Ottawa for opening their doors and collaborating and having us all here tonight. You know, I stand up here on my own, but the reality is there is a huge team of people who have worked very hard to bring us together tonight. And an event like this takes an awful lot of work, and I just wanted to express my thanks to the whole team for the outstandingly careful and caring work that they've put into having us here tonight. Tonight, as Natalia mentioned, this is going to be a kind of a musical journey that we're going to go on. And it will consist of song and story. And we're going to explore and hopefully learn a little bit about the story behind this very special night that we're celebrating tonight. You know, this night is actually my favorite night of the year. And every time May 22nd comes around each year, I get a little sort of a little chill on the back of my neck, a little thrill in my heart, because the night of May 22nd essentially represents the night that the Bahá'í faith began. And this extraordinary spiritual movement took off into the world. And so I actually wanted to just, if I may, I wanted to begin our journey by singing a prayer just to set the tone. You know, I'm sure that many of you are familiar with the Bahá'í faith, but for those of you who are perhaps hearing about the Bahá'í faith for the first time tonight, the central principle of the Bahá'í faith that governs all Bahá'í teachings and practices is unity. To be a Bahá'í means to work for unity in the world and to practice in such a way that we build understanding and love in our relationships with all the people of the world. And so I would like to begin with a prayer on this subject of unity. This is called the Light of Unity. God grant that the light of unity may envelop the whole earth, and that the sea the kingdom is God's, may be stamped upon the brow of all its people. God grant that the light of unity may envelop the whole earth, and that the sea of the kingdom is God's, may be stamped upon the brow of all its people. All its people. All its people. All its people. So as you've noticed by now, I'm sure, we've given this evening a special name, Immortal Youth, a musical tribute to the Bab. And the reason that I've given it this title is that we're going to go on this musical journey. And for the final song of this journey, I'm going to sing a musical arrangement of a piece of writing written by Baha'u'llah in honor of the Bab. In fact, specifically in honor of this night of May 22nd, when the Bab declared his mission. And this piece of writing is called The Tablet of the Immortal Youth. And it's a beautiful, poetic, mystical piece of writing, but it's also quite long. So I wanted to warn you in advance that when we get there, as I sing it, it becomes a 20-minute song. And I just wanted to give you a little heads up in advance as we make our way towards this Tablet of the Immortal Youth. But what I hope for this piece is that this Tablet of the Immortal Youth can be a kind of immersive, meditative, musical, mystical experience. And when we get to that song, I hope that we can really just immerse ourselves in the beauty of the poetry and the words and the rhythms and the melodies of this tablet. But in order to begin our journey towards the Tablet of the Immortal Youth, I wanted to lay a little bit of groundwork about the significance of this night that we're commemorating today. You know, I'm sure that many of you are aware that this holy day, this Bahá'í holy day, begins at sunset tonight on May 22nd, and it continues until sunset on May 23rd. And I wanted to begin our journey by just mentioning that just as this day, May 22nd and May 23rd, have great spiritual significance for Baha'is of many different backgrounds and cultures all over the world, May 23rd is also a very significant date in the world of science. Because on May 23rd, on the same day, of the same month, of the same year that the Bab declared his mission and the Baha'i faith essentially began, humanity as a whole made a quantum leap forward in the world of science and communication and technology. Because on May 23rd, 1844, the great American inventor Samuel Morse sent the world's very first telegraph message. And the moment that Samuel Morse sent this message, like a bolt of lightning across the ether from one city to another city, the world stepped out of an old age and into a new age, an age of telephones and televisions, and now the internet and live streaming and all this technology that really characterize this age of communication that we all live in. And to highlight this historic moment in the development of technology, Samuel Morse chose for that message a particular quote which he took from the Bible. A kind of mysterious but short question that perfectly captured the magnitude of this miraculous event in the history of scientific advancement. And as he typed that message into his machine and sent it off, the message simply read, "What hath God wrought?" And the world was changed. But as Samuel Morse transmitted that first telegraphic message, of course he wasn't aware that that question, which he chose from the Bible, could also have been equally applicable to another world-changing event that had taken place just the night before on the other side of the planet, in Persia. And that event was a conversation that took place in a quiet corner of the city of Shiraz. And in that conversation, a young man of just 24 years of age made the staggering declaration that humanity as a whole was in fact entering a new era, a new chapter of its history, not just technologically, but also spiritually. And that from that moment onwards, from that day onwards, the world was entering a new stage of its spiritual and material evolution. And this young man called himself the Bab, which means the gate, as if he were the gate to a new era, an era of great discovery and great revelation. And so at this moment, I would like to sing a prayer from the Bahá'í writings. And this is a prayer about many things. But one thing that this prayer describes is the joy that we get out of discovery, the discovery of the secrets of the world and the secrets of life. This is called "Create in Me a Pure Heart." Create in me a pure heart, oh my God, and renew a tranquil conscience within me, oh my hope, through the Spirit of power, confirm thou me in thy cause. Oh, my best beloved, confirm thou me in thy cause, and by the light of thy glory reveal unto me thy path. By the light of thy glory reveal unto me thy path. O thou, the goal of my desire, Lift me up unto the heaven of thy holiness, O source of my being, and by the breezes of thine eternity, gladden me, O thou who art my God. Let thine everlasting melodies breathe tranquility on me, O my companion. Let the riches of thine ancient countenance deliver me from all except thee, O my Master, O my Master, and let the tidings of the revelation of thine incorruptible essence bring me joy. O thou who art the most manifest of the manifest, and the most hidden of the hidden, the most manifest of the manifest, and the most hidden of the hidden of the So at the time when this 24-year-old Persian youth made this staggering declaration, a declaration in which he announced that he had been born into the world with a divine mission to prepare humanity for this new era, this new chapter in humanity's spiritual history. This period of time was a peculiar period in human history. It was the mid-19th century. And the mid-19th century was a period in which witnessed this extraordinary efflorescence of new religious movements that were blossoming in different parts of the world and in the context of different spiritual traditions among different peoples. But within all of these different new religious movements, there seemed to be a common theme that ran through each and every one of them. And that theme was the notion that the ancient promises of the world's great religions and spiritual traditions concerning the future appearance of a great figure, a great promised one, who was to appear and bring about a transformation of the world. One who was to usher the world into a golden age of peace and prosperity for all humankind. That these promises were going to be fulfilled in the year 1844. And unbeknownst to each other, these different religious movements were preparing for the same event at the same time. And as the year 1844 approached, this great millennial excitement swept across vast portions of the planet. It swept through America, it swept through Europe, and perhaps at its greatest intensity, it swept through the Middle East. And by the year 1844, this messianic fervor had reached such a fever pitch in the Middle East that special schools had been set up in places like Persia and Iraq, schools that were dedicated to preparing the people for the coming of the Promised One. And people from all over the Middle East, students, were flocking to these schools to study the signs and characteristics that their traditions told them that the Promised One would display. And when the leading teacher in the most prestigious of these schools was lying on his deathbed, he gathered his students around him, and he told them that the time had come for them to put away their books and to go out into the world and to search for the Promised One, assuring them that the Promised One was already in the world. And most of his students sat idle, not knowing what to do or how to start or where to go. But among them all, there was one outstanding, diligent, earnest young student by the name of Mullá Husayn, who immediately, on hearing his teacher's dying wish, put away his books and set out in search of the Promised One. And this young student, Mullá Husayn, set out traveling throughout the Middle East, going wherever the dictates of his heart led him, listening to the inner voice inside his heart, directing him from town to town and city to city, until eventually he felt drawn as if by a magnetic force to the city of Shiraz in the south of Persia, a city famed for its beauty, its architecture, and perhaps above all, its poets. And on the evening of May 22nd, 1844, Mullá Husayn arrived at the gate of Shiraz. And as he stood at the city gate, gathering his thoughts and preparing to enter this city, he noticed a young man, a youth, in the distance that seemed to be walking towards him. And this youth walked directly over to Mullá Husayn, smiling at him, and he embraced him and welcomed him to Shiraz, as if he were an old friend who had been expecting Mullá Husayn's arrival. And Mullá Husayn was so taken aback by the charm and the affectionate manner of this youth that when the youth insisted that Mullá Husayn come to his home and have some tea and rest after his long journey, Mullá Husayn couldn't help but to accept his invitation. And so he went with this youth to his home, where the youth welcomed him and served him tea and began to ask him about the nature of his travels. And Mullá Husayn explained that he was a student of one of the great teachers, and he had set out on a mission to find the Promised One. And the youth said to him, "Well, that's a very momentous quest you're on. How will you ever know when you've found him?" And Mullá Husayn began to rattle off a list of all the signs and characteristics that he had learnt in his studies the Promised One would display. He will do this and he will do that, and he will be like this and he will be like that. And the youth patiently, with great care and consideration, listened to each of the signs that Mullá Husayn described to him. And to the great surprise of Mullah Husayn, the youth said to him, "All these signs are manifest in me." And Mullah Husayn was shocked that this youth who was only 24 years old, was younger than him, who had no scholarly authority, no expertise, no special position in society, that he would dare to make such a presumptuous and even arrogant suggestion. And Mullah Husayn began to tighten up. He began to challenge the young man, almost to the point of being slightly rude to his host. And what happened next left Mullah Husayn stunned in his seat. The young man stood up, picked up his pen, and began to write rapidly and speaking, chanting as he wrote. And before the astonished gaze of Mullah Husayn, this young man, in a language of the most exquisite power and poetic beauty, began to unravel the great spiritual mysteries of the world, the mysteries of the Bible, the mysteries of the Quran, the mysteries of the Gospels and the Torah. And this young man, before the widening eyes of Mullah Husayn, unraveled these mysteries with such power and such eloquence and such profound insight, mysteries that had baffled the greatest scholars for thousands of years. This young man was unraveling them before the eyes of Mullah Husayn in such a way as to leave Mullah Husayn in a state of paralyzed awe at what he was witnessing. It was as if he was witnessing a divine revelation before his eyes. And when the young man had finished, he put down his pen and he said to Mullah Husayn, "I am the Bab, the gate of God, the promised one." And Mullah Husayn said that this declaration came down upon him like a thunderbolt. He wanted to run out into the streets and scream at the top of his lungs that he had found the promised one and the new era had begun. But the youth, the Bab, the gate, told Mullah Husayn not to go out, that if people saw him like this, they would think he was crazy. They would think he was drunk. The Bab told Mullah Husayn to stay, and he would explain to him the mysteries that he was so longing to understand. And so Mullah Husayn sat there, spellbound for hours into the night on May 22nd, 1844, listening to the Bab unravel the mysteries of the universe in the sweetest poetry that Mullah Husayn had ever heard. And so I'd like to now sing some words of the Bab, some of which come from a book that the Bab wrote in that night. This is called Promised One. I'd like to ask you to help me with this one. I think this could be very good. There is a very simple part at the end of this song that we could sing together. It's so simple, it's just 5 words. It goes, I am, the promised one. So why don't I show you how to sing this, and then when the time comes, we'll sing it together. It's very simple. It goes like this. So, repeat after me. I am the promised one. Can we do that? Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. I am the promised one. That's it, perfect. And then the second line is the same words, but it's just slightly lower. It goes like this. Repeat after me. I am the promised one. Can we try that? I am the promised one. You got this, you got this. Okay, let's try the 2 lines together, yeah? So, how about I do it once all the way through, and then you repeat with me all the way through. So, repeat after me. I am, I am, I am the promised one. I am, I am, I am the promised one. Okay, together? I am, I am, I am the promised one. I am, I am, I am the promised one. Yeah, if you've got a higher voice, you can sing it an octave up, okay? So, it's very simple, and it's very obvious when it comes up. And I'll do a big signal when we're there, okay? So, wonderful. This is called Promised One. I am the mystic faith. I am the mystic faith, which the hand of omnipotence hath reared. I am the lamp the finger of God hath lit within its niche, and caused to shine with deathless splendor. Join in whenever you want and just keep on going. I am, I am, I am the promised one. I am, I am, I am the promised one. I am, I am, I am the promised one. I am, I am, I am the promised one. Keep going with that. I am, I am, I am the promised one. I am the one whose name you have for 1,000 years invoked, and whose mention you have risen, whose advent you have longed to witness. And the hour of whose revelation you have prayed. So, when the Bab, the gate, finally allowed this young student, Mullá Husayn, to share the news of his discovery, Mullá Husayn set out from the house of the Bab, traveling across the length and breadth of Persia, blazing a trail from north to south and east to west, and sharing the message of the Bab with whoever was willing to listen. And that message spread like wildfire. Thousands upon thousands of people all over Persia, ranging from the most accomplished, respected scholars in the most revered national positions to the most humble, lowly farmers and workers of the land, embraced the message of the Bab with a devotion that became a source of astonishment to their countrymen. And the essence of the message of the Bab could be summed up in a single word, and that word was oneness. The Bab was teaching people to look beyond all the things that tend to separate human beings from each other, to look beyond all the things that become barriers between people, all the things that become excuses for people to hate one another, to judge one another, to abuse and oppress one another. He wanted people to look past the outer appearance of all things and look to see the spiritual reality in the heart of every human being. Essentially, he wanted people to see each other as souls, each with a unique potential and capacity to become a noble, courageous, loving being. But the Bab had a specific purpose in teaching these things, in teaching people to look beyond the outer appearance of things, even the outer appearance of people. He had a specific purpose in mind that he was preparing people for. From the beginning, the Bab had told his followers that his entire mission was merely the preparatory stage for an even greater event, and that he himself was no more than the forerunner, the herald of an even greater figure, the great promised one, not only of his local Islamic faith, but the promised one awaited by all the religions of the world, the promised one foretold in the scriptures of Judaism and Christianity and Islam, in Buddhism and Hinduism and Zoroastrianism, and in many of the ancient indigenous traditions of the world, the promise of this great figure, this great Redeemer, who would come into the world and guide humanity towards its destiny of peace on earth. The Bab referred to this person simply as him whom God will make manifest, and he insisted that he was no more than the herald of him whom God will make manifest. And so for the next song, I would like to sing some more words of the Bab in which he gave to his followers the highest aspiration that they could aim at, and that aspiration was to attain the presence of him whom God will make manifest, and to listen to his teachings, and then to put those teachings into practice in their lives. So this song is from the writings of the Bab, and it's called Wondrous Paradise. There is no paradise more wondrous. There is no paradise more wondrous for any soul than to be exposed to God's manifestation in his day, to hear his There is no paradise more wondrous. There is no paradise more wondrous for any soul than to be exposed to God's manifestation in His day, to hear His verses and believe in them. There is no paradise more wondrous. There is no paradise more wondrous to attain His presence, which is naught but the presence of God. Sail upon the sea of the heavenly kingdom of His good pleasure, and to partake of the choice fruits of the paradise of His divine oneness. There is no paradise more wondrous. There is no paradise more wondrous for any soul than to be exposed to God's manifestation in His day, to hear His verses and believe in them. And so as the Bab's message continued to spread ever farther and ever faster all over Persia, thousands upon thousands of people began to prepare themselves for the coming of the great promised one foretold by the Bab, him whom God will make manifest. And eventually the Persian authorities became extremely threatened by the seemingly unstoppable influence of this youth, this young man who had he had no power, he had no army, he had no weapons. All he had was his pen and his writings. And yet these writings, these beautiful, eloquent, insightful, poetic verses that seem to just flow out of the Bab's mind, completely unpremeditated, as if almost like a flowing river of beautiful, profound, poetic creativity that just flowed out of him, had this mysterious transformative effect on the people who read them. People who read the Bab's writings would find themselves changed, as if a veil had been removed from their eyes, and they saw the world in a new way. They began to see the whole universe and everything in it, including themselves, as being interconnected with everything else in the universe. Almost like an infinite, interconnected network of reality, every node connected to every other node, every human being mysteriously interconnected with every other human being. And from this newfound point of view, the followers of the Bab began to look at humanity in such a way that when human beings hate each other, or abuse each other, or oppress each other, this seemed akin to humanity being afflicted by a kind of autoimmune disease in which we are attacking the very cells of our own body. And so for the followers of the Bab, as they read his writings and absorbed his teachings, the most rational, the most logical mode of operation in which to live their lives was to love one another and to care for each other and to help each other and to strive to cooperate and to collaborate with other people and to try as best they could to live in harmony with each other and with the environment around them. But the authorities in Persia felt that these teachings of the Bab posed a grave threat to their control over society. And as the Bab's message spread, the Persian authorities unleashed this great tidal wave of brutal persecution of the Bab and his followers. And in the space of a few short years, over 20,000 innocent people, men, women, children, anyone who had dared to read the writings of the Bab or be so bold as to share them with others, were arrested, often tortured, and slaughtered on the streets of Persia in the mid-19th century. And among those 20,000 people was our young hero, the student, Mullá Husayn, who himself had been profoundly transformed through his own personal encounter with the Bab, and who had dedicated the few remaining years of his life to sharing the Bab's message as much as he could. And Mullá Husayn eventually, in a ferocious onslaught from government troops, sacrificed his life defending his friends. And so I've written a song which is dedicated to Mullá Husayn, which I'd like to share with you now. And this song is actually written in the voice of Mullá Husayn. And it's a kind of imaginary love letter from Mullá Husayn to the Bab, in which he is devoting both his life and his death to the cause of the Bab. This is called Gate of My Heart. I was alone when the banks burst and the river came down from the clouds to the earth, and you were the one I had longed to find, the honey to my tongue and the balm to my mind. So if I should speak but a word of you, would the universe break? Would the trees split in two? Well, I will not sleep, neither close an eye, until the day I will lie down. I was born to die for you, for you were the gate of my heart. If heaven should fall, then what am I to this is real for me, if it's real for you. To this I was sworn as I combed the earth, from the day I was born until the night of my birth. So understand, my heart and hand have crawled from land to land. You were my grail, my only goal, forever the Joseph of my soul. Now I am you and you are me, and every page of history has led me here to the shade of your door. The ark, the flood, the holy blood, the bush aflame, the cross, the pain, the heads that rolled like waves to the shore. So if I should walk with this flag a-flying to Mazindaran, where the kings go to die, I will not ask neither how nor why, but there's a star in the sky for every tear I cry for you, for you. Were the gate of my heart, da 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 da. I was lost, and I am found, my tongue unloosed, my mind unbound. You said 2 words and spoke them thrice, and made your life a sacrifice for him to be manifest, manifest indeed, for him to be manifest, manifest indeed, for him to be manifest, manifest Image of man. So think of my name when you count the stars. I am your Husayn. This is my Karbala. And so, the sudden death of our young hero, the student Mullá Husayn, in no way stifled the spread of the Bab's message. In fact, it seemed as if the more that the Persian authorities strove to suppress the message of the Bab, the further and faster it spread. It was like throwing oil on a fire. And eventually, seeing that all their efforts to extinguish the Bab's message had failed, the Prime Minister, in an effort to completely eradicate everything that the Bab stood for, issued an order for the public execution of the Bab himself. And so in the year 1850, at the tender age of 30, the Bab was brought before a firing squad of 250 government soldiers and was publicly shot to death. And even though the Bab himself had breathed his last in a state of utter serenity and perfect confidence in the conviction that he had already achieved his purpose, he had paved the way for the coming of him whom God will make manifest, the promised one of all religions. His followers, left without him, were at a loss. They were now leaderless, directionless, unsure of what to do next. These great waves of persecution continued across their country, wiping them out. And almost all of the most capable champions of the Bab's message, all of the Bab's most preeminent disciples, had been hunted down and put to death. All of them, except for one. One who happened to be the son of a minister in the king's court, and whose name was Baha'u'llah, which means the glory of God. And Baha'u'llah had become one of the most loyal, prominent, outstanding followers of the Bab. But because he was the son of a royal minister, he was not put to death. He was arrested, he was chained up, and he was thrown into one of the most notorious prisons of the time, a place known as the Black Pit of Tehran. And this place wasn't really a prison at all. It was an old underground cistern, almost like an old sewer, buried deep beneath the city, where the worst of the worst criminals were sent to go down there and be cut off from society. This was a place with no light, with no heat, with no sanitary facilities. It was probably the most unpleasant physical environment you could ever muster up in your darkest nightmares, this black pit. But down in this underground dungeon, where he lay in chains, in the darkness, 4 stories beneath the earth, this young follower of the Bab, Baha'u'llah, experienced a vision, a kind of mystical vision, in which he described. He described later how in the darkness of the black pit, he suddenly saw a dazzling light appear before him. And in this light, he saw the vision of a figure, a feminine figure, in his own words, a maid of heaven. And this maid of heaven turned to him and called out to him, telling him that the time had come for him to reveal to the world that he himself was in fact the very one that the Bab had promised. He was the promised one. The religions of the world way up there in the earth above him were waiting for. He was him whom God will make manifest. And she told Baha'u'llah not to be afraid. She assured him that though he lay in darkness, in chains, underneath the earth in that moment, his fate would change, and she would guide him and inspire him with a message that would bring about the reconciliation of all the peoples of the world and would lay the foundations for universal peace, fulfilling the promise of the prayer of Jesus Christ, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven." And the story of Baha'u'llah is a story for another night. But sometime after he was eventually released from the Black Pit, Baha'u'llah wrote this beautiful tablet in honor of the Bab, called the Tablet of the Immortal Youth. And this tablet, as I mentioned earlier, was written in commemoration of this very night, of that night of May 22nd, 1844, that fateful night when the Bab spoke those immortal words to Mullá Husayn, "I am the Bab, the gate of God." And so we're going to venture now into the tablet of the Immortal Youth. And As I mentioned at the beginning, it's a beautiful, poetic tablet full of rich imagery and symbolism, and it tells a story. It tells the story of a youth who appears with his message, and then a maid of heaven who appears with hers. So I hope for this 20-minute immersive musical meditation, we can all just soak in the words, the beauty, the poetry, the imagery, and the melodies. And I hope that this musical arrangement brings you closer to the words of Baha'u'llah in honor of the declaration of the Bab. Thank you. Lo, the gates of paradise were unlocked, and the hallowed youth came forth, bearing a serpent plain. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with crystal waters. Upon his face was a veil woven by the fingers of might and power. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with a mighty name. Upon his brow there shone a beauteous crown, which cast its splendor upon all who are in heaven and all who are on earth. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with a mighty cause. Upon his shoulders there fell the locks of the Spirit like unto black musk upon white and lustrous pearls. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with a transcendent cause. On his right hand was a ring adorned with a pure and blessed gem, a pure and blessed gem. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with a mighty spirit. Upon it was graven in a secret and ancient script by God, a most noble angel is this, and the hearts of the inmates of the eternal realm cried out, rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with an ancient light. On its right cheek was a mark whose sight caused every man of understanding to waver in his faith, and they that the veil of the unseen exclaim, rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with a mighty secret. This is the point from which the knowledge of the former and the latter generations hath been unfolded, and the denizens of the kingdom intoned. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with a mighty knowledge. This verily is the horseman of the Spirit, who circleth round the fount of everlasting life. And they that lie concealed in the retreats of the highest heaven cried out, Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. This is the immortal youth, come with a mighty unveiling. He descended from the tabernacle of beauty till he stood even as the sun in the midmost heaven, arrayed with a beauty at once peerless and transcendent. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with the most joyful tidings. Standing in the midmost heaven, he shone forth like unto the sun in its meridian splendor, illumining the seat of divine beauty with his mighty name, his mighty name, whereupon the crier cried out, the crier cried out, Rejoice, this is the beauty of the unseen, come with a mighty spirit. And the maids of heaven cried out from their celestial chambers, Hallowed be the Lord, hallowed be the Lord, the most excellent of all creators. And the nightingale sang sweetly, the nightingale sang sweetly, Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, who's like the eyes of the favored ones of heaven have never beheld. And lo, the gates of paradise were unlocked a second time with the key of his great name. His great name. And the maid of beauty shone forth even as the dawning sun above the horizon of a resplendent morn. of a resplendent morn. She came forth with such adorning as to seize with longing desire the minds of them that are nigh unto God, that are nigh unto God. Descending from the chambers of eternity, she sang in accents that entranced the souls of the sincere, of the sincere. Suspended in the air, she let fall a single lock of her hair from beneath her luminous veil, her luminous veil, shedding the fragrance of that lock upon all creation, whereupon the faces of the holy ones grew pale, and the hearts of the ardent lovers were filled with the blood of anguish, of anguish. By God, whosoever closeth his eyes to her beauty hath fallen prey to grave deception and manifest error. Grave deception and manifest error. She turned and round her circled the inhabitants of both this world and the world to come. The world to come. She advanced arrayed with a rare and glorious adorning till she stood face to face before the youth. Rejoice, this is the immortal beauty, come with enchanting grace. From beneath her veil she drew forth her hand, golden tinged as a sunbeam falling upon the face of a stainless mirror. Incomparable ruby fingers seized the hem of the veil that hid the face of the youth, of the youth, and drew it back, whereupon pillars of the throne on high were made to tremble, were made to tremble. Then did the spirits of all created things part from their bodies. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with the mighty cause. And the inmates of paradise rent their garments asunder as they caught a lightning glimpse of his ancient and shining countenance. This is the sweet and entrancing chord, sweet and entrancing chord. And from the source of God's inscrutable decree, the tongue of the unseen proclaimed by God, the like of this youth, the eyes of the former generations have never beheld. And the maids of holiness cried out from the chambers of exalted dominion, rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with manifest sovereignty. By God, this is that youth whose beauty is the ardent desire of the celestial concourse. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with the mighty chorus. Then did the youth lift up his head to the concourse of heavenly angels. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with a mighty spirit, and gave voice to a single word, whereupon the denizens of heaven arose, one and all, to a new life. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with a mighty trumpet blast. Then did he looked up and upon the inhabitants of the earth with a wondrous glance, with a wondrous glance. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with a mighty glance. And with that glance he gathered them together, each and all. Rejoice, this is the immortal youth, come with a mighty chorus. With another look he signaled to a chosen few, then repaired to his habitation in the everlasting paradise, in the everlasting paradise, in the everlasting paradise, in the everlasting paradise. And this truly is a mighty call. Thank you, friends. Thank you so very much. I would just like to express my thanks once again to the Glebe St. James Church for opening its doors to us this evening, and to the Bahá'í Community of Ottawa for putting in so much work for this event, which has been such an honor for me to be a part of. And I would just like to thank you all for having me in Ottawa. Tonight has really been a true highlight of my North American tour, and I feel like I've received such a gift coming here to Ottawa. And I would like to just express a special thanks to Nat and Tyler, who have been our amazing audiovisual team tonight. Thank you, friends, and I will leave you over to Natalia now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Luke, so much for that amazing musical journey that you took us on. I can't think of a better tribute for the Declaration of the Bob, so thank you very much. Can we please give him another round of applause? We are truly honored to have him here. My heart is full and my stomach is empty. So, and I know a lot of you have been in the heat for some time and you must be thirsty. So I want to invite everyone to join us for some refreshments. I will ask that the first 3 rows proceed first, because some people may need some extra time in the first 3 rows. We're going to go out to the right-hand side, down a hallway into an area where the refreshments will be served. At 10:20, we'll come back. For those of you that are staying for the Holy Day commemoration, we will come back and do the readings and the prayers to commemorate the Baha'i Holy Day here at 10:30. So please be back at 10:20 so we can get started on that. Otherwise, thank you again, all of you, for coming. Thank you again to our volunteers, to the Glebe St. James Church, for all of the volunteers who made tonight possible, and to Luke for being here with us and gracing us with his talents tonight. Thank you very much. Please enjoy the rest of the evening. We'll let the first 3 rows go ahead, and then the rest can follow.